I don't know anyone who's been like, crap, I'm so regretful that I actually participated in this, because it just doesn't happen. Hi everyone, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be a little chat about NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. And this kicks off November 1st. And for anyone who's not familiar, this is the 20th anniversary of NaNoWriMo, which is nuts to me. And it started 1999, but it started in the Bay Area by this amazing guy named Chris Beatty. And it was like him and 6 of his friends who were all aspiring writers. And he basically like got them together and was like, what if we all just spent a month writing books? If we carved out time, committed to spending a month to writing our books, and we just did it together and kind of supported each other and made it a thing. And they initially did it, I want to say like in July of that year. And it's funny if you listen to podcasts and things with him, he was like, of course, like we all wrote complete crap, but it became a thing. And like the next year, like they talked to friends about it, and there was like 140 people who did it. And then there was like, I think like 1,200 people who did it. And then there was 5,000. And now it's like, I don't even know if it's like 1 million people a year, but it's like hundreds of thousands of people now in November. He created a website like the second year, and it is this, it's like the biggest writing project in the world that takes place. And it is writers of all genres, all levels, all ages commit to putting pen to paper, you know, fingers to keyboard, and knocking out what eventually could be your next great novel and the next great novel. And it is a community of just fabulous people. I have done National Novel Writing Month, I want to say 7 times or 8 times. I'll clarify down below. And it's just such great fun. So I am, of course, going to do it again. And I thought I would do just sort of a little bit of a video about what it's all about, why I love it, and then I will probably I will take you guys on some sort of my journey as I go through the month of November and attempt to write 50,000 words in 30 days. So for anyone out there who has written a book or attempted to write a book, you know it ain't easy. And part of the goal of National Novel Writing Month is to commit to yourself and to commit to writing theoretically every day. And the math breaks down to 1,667 words a day is 50,000 words in the month of November. And it's to get in the habit of writing every day and committing to your craft. And again, it doesn't matter if you are employed, if you're a full-time writer, if you've been published before, if it's your first time out, if it's the 10th time you're, you know, writing a book. It's for everybody. And it is one of, if not the most welcoming community of writers. And I have been to a whole bunch of conferences, you guys know, and writers in general are really, really lovely people. And writing is a very solitary endeavor. And you can be literally alone in a room and you can feel very alone. And it provides an opportunity for you to connect not only through the community online, and it's this huge online community, global, and in a lot of places, depending on where you are, they do a lot of write-ins and meetups in person. So it's a great chance to get to know other writers and sort of like build relationships and maybe find critique partners, or like, who knows, find friends, who knows where it's going to go. But the overall focus is writing, but it's also about the community. So like I said, Chris Beatty was the founder of it. I don't know how many years ago he stepped down from that role, and Grant Faulkner is doing it now, who is also completely interesting and engaging, and he has podcasts. I'll link a whole bunch of stuff down below. I'll link the NaNoWriMo website, of course. But I had the great fortune of seeing Chris Beatty as a keynote speaker at a Writer's Digest conference in New York, maybe like in 2008 or 2009. And I will try and find some of my notes from that because I know that I have them, but so inspirational. And it's really just, like I said, like an encouraging group of writers. And it was interesting. I was listening to, I want to say Right On is the podcast that Grant does. And I was listening to an episode last night and he had Chris on there, and it was sort of like the gearing up for National Novel Writing Month. and the prep that takes place in October. And he was talking about books that were started at NaNoWriMo. So Aaron Morgenstern's The Night Circus started as a NaNoWriMo book. Rainbow Rowell's Fangirl started as a NaNoWriMo book. So many others. I will list them down below. But it's fascinating to see that. It's encouraging as a writer to know that some of these amazing writers started their books doing exactly what I'm doing. And so a couple of the rules of the road for National Novel Writing Month are, you are not trying to write a perfect story. You're supposed to be writing a first draft. And a first draft is supposed to be messy and ugly and have gaps in it and say things like, insert name here, do research now, you know, does this make sense? You're just supposed to be getting it out. So it's not about going back and editing every day, because if you do that, you're never gonna have the time to get to 50,000 words. It's not about perfection. It's not about perfectly plotted. It doesn't have to be anything other than what it is. And it's sort of like that Elizabeth Gilbert quote about being the glorious mess that you are. Like, let it be a glorious mess. First drafts are supposed to be messy, but like Victoria Schwab says, you can't edit a blank page. So like, you've got to get something out there. And the whole point of this is to get something out there. And just vomit whatever you've got. Just put it on the page, get the story out there, and then you'll have something to continue with and something to work with when all is said and done. So, like I said, there's a couple of books. Chris Beatty wrote a book. Grant Faulkner has a couple of books. There's more books than I could possibly begin to list about writing and motivation and all of these things. So if that's how you want to prep in October, do that. Read some motivational books, read some things, do whatever's going to work for you. But know that you're not supposed to come out the other end of this with a perfectly polished, like, nobody writes a book start to finish, first draft to final draft in 30 days. So just get that out of the way. And also know that, like, nobody has to see this. Like, yes, at the end of the month, you upload what you've written to confirm your word count, but there is nobody in the NaNoWriMo headquarters who's reading the hundreds of thousands of books that people are putting in there. So it really is just to tally your words. I swear. No judgment. It's a judgment-free zone. It's one of the best parts of it. And you just write. Writers write. The whole motivation of it is to get you to write and to get you to commit to your story. So basically, October is like prep month, and how you prep is really up to you. And I am, in many ways, a pantser, and I just make it up as I go along, and I discover the story as I go along. And sometimes that works. And what I find for a lot with like a first draft, I am not someone who could plot things out. I can't follow the structure of a plot, you know, being mapped out for me. So what I need to do is kind of have a nugget of an idea, which sometimes is like this big and sometimes it's this big, and start writing. And after I've drafted, then I go back in and start to do, and I realize this is like ass backwards and probably like wastes my time, but that's when I go in and do more of a structured synopsis and plot points and scenes, and then I start figuring out what needs to be moved around and what's missing. So I would like to tell you that, oh yeah, I plan all this ahead. I have 100% sat down on November 1st. Sometimes I've been like, I could kill a person and this is how I'm gonna kill them, and let's just see what happens. And other times I have known more parts of a story. I've had some ideas about things. I've had some ideas for like beginnings and ends, or, you know, I'm like every other writer. I've got like a whole list of different ideas and nuggets and snippets of paper and like little lines jotted down. So it's a matter of finding that right thing to hang my hat on and just kind of run with it. So I am impressed with myself to admit that it's October 1st when I'm filming this, and a couple weeks ago I had an idea for a book. Just a nugget of it, just a little, I don't know where it's gonna go, but I kind of had an idea for like where the people are gonna be, why they're together, and who's gonna die. I don't know who's done it yet. I haven't figured that out yet, but just sort of had this one little nugget of something. So I think I'm gonna run with that one unless something better comes along in the next couple of weeks. And I don't have names for anybody yet. Like, I just don't have anything yet, but just sort of this one little nugget of an idea that I'm gonna try and run with. But I am gonna try and do something a little different this year, and I think I'm gonna try and do a little bit of planning and research. And there's like a few different things that I'm trying to do in life right now, sort of under the guise of nothing changes if nothing changes. And I have had a hard time focusing on anything creative in a while. So between job changing and starting and being out of town and just feeling very in flux kind of all across the board, I felt very creatively depleted lately. And it's probably evident in some of these videos, so sorry about that. But I'm trying to not force myself in a bad way to do things, but to not let myself kind of fall even further down the rabbit hole that I'm in. So I normally am not someone who plans ahead when it comes to NaNoWriMo. So I'm thinking this year, let me try and plan a little bit. I'm not going to structure the whole story, but I want to try and do a little research because I want to set this book in a city that I'm not super familiar with, which is a first for me. And I want to kind of push myself a little bit more than I've pushed myself and just try to like flesh out a few things, brainstorm some ideas, because what inevitably happens is like the first week, it's like, I got this, I'm like on cloud 9. And by week 2, it's like needle comes off the record and we don't know what's going to happen. So I want to make sure I've got like some points that I can be working towards and something to keep pushing me. But NaNoWriMo itself, the website, has so many resources. It's got forms like that you can fill out and charts, and encourages you like how to brainstorm and how to get ideas and how to map things out and plan for it. It is such a great organization. It's a nonprofit. You might not probably have figured that part out. But they have brought so many positive things. They now do what's called Camp NaNoWriMo, which happens in the summer. They have a young writers program. You can donate money. Every dollar is helpful, whether it brings pencils to a classroom for children or, you know, it's something that happens on a broader scale, no matter how much money, you know. If you go on their site, you can see what your money does and what your money will bring. And I support it every year because I can't imagine if I had not had supportive teachers and opportunities when I was in junior high and when I was in high school. And Grant was talking about this on one of the podcasts, and he was saying how he was talking about Harry Potter. And it was before he interviewed Victoria Schwab, and just how Harry Potter completely has defined a generation of reading and has changed the game for the generation who grew up with Harry Potter. Because for us, who were in a previous generation, there was nothing like that phenomenon. So like, yes, I had Sweet Valley High, like, you know, there were books that were out, but it wasn't on that same scale. Like nothing has been on the scale of Harry Potter. So he was saying how like for his kids, they were reading the books multiple times and they were discussing it with friends, and it was a topic for the family reading it together. And it opened up discussions. And he was like, I didn't have friends who read, and I didn't have friends who wanted to write books when they were younger. And like, I was that girl. And I definitely had some friends who we like swapped some of the Sweet Valley Highs, but not really. And I don't know anyone who wanted to write a book when we were kids. And I did. And I used to try and write books when I was younger. Like, I was the girl who, my mom said I needed to have more activities to be attractive for college, because like I didn't really do sports. Like I played tennis and I quit because I wasn't good at it. And I'm just not a competitive person in that sense. So she wanted me to like take SAT prep classes to get, you know, better scores so I could be, you know, a better candidate to get into colleges. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to take SAT classes, but I said I would go to summer school if I could take writing and photography classes. So I was the kid who was in summer school voluntarily taking writing classes and photography classes, while other kids that I went to high school with were there because they failed stuff. I mean, we could have a whole video about how I got made fun of for that, but whatever. Still here, people. But it was such a passion of mine from even a younger age that I completely relate to the fact of not having people understand where you're coming from or your passion. So NaNoWriMo does that. There's so many people who get it. So all this being said, and it's free. I should put that at the beginning. If you guys want to join it, this is a free thing at your own pace. you can be a winner, you know, by getting to 50,000 words, and there's badges that you earn, and it's great online community and this great website and everything. But it is whatever you want it to be. You can start on November 10th, you can write 5,000 words, you can write 100,000 words, like you can do whatever you want. But the whole idea is to just commit yourself to the thing that you are in love with, which is writing. Okay, so I paused the camera because I had to go look and find my notebook. This is from the Writer's Digest conference in January 20th, 2012. And Chris Beatty. It's not gonna focus. I feel like if I hide, maybe it will. Chris Beatty was the closing speaker. So, of course, I wrote a whole bunch of stuff down. So he's, you know, said so many great things, but he talks about having the drive to write, you know, the momentum, having a deadline for your book project is more important than the idea. So it's about the discipline in writing. And that's one of the things that NaNoWriMo gives you, is the discipline to sit down every day. And he says, even if you're not writing every day, like even if you're not writing the 1667 a day, commit to opening the document and writing 10 words, or setting the timer for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and just writing for those 5 minutes and writing whatever you can write. And you don't have to write all the words in one sitting. You know, get up an hour earlier before work and write 200 words. Write on your commute, write on your lunch break if you can. You know, stay up an hour later. Like, yes, you are going to be tired during National Novel Writing Month. Yes, you are going to need to miss out on things you normally like to do. Watch less TV, maybe do less social engagements. Maybe it's a perfect excuse for you to get out of social engagements. Be like, oh, I wish I could, but I'm doing NaNoWriMo. I can't do that tonight. But it's about putting your writing first and prioritizing it. So yes, we all have things we need to do every day, whether it's you know, going to work, being a mama, being a pop, being caring for parents, you know, commitments that you have. But all that other stuff, and I'm the first to admit, I can like boob it up on TV way too much. I can fritter away so much time in the morning that I could be doing something else. I will say I take good use of my commute by reading, but for the month of November, I'm gonna read a whole heck of a lot less books because I'm gonna be writing on my commute instead, and that's how I've done it in years past. So you figure out what it is. So it's about the discipline and the making time for things. What's also amazing is like, this speech happened almost 8 years ago and it's still all as true. He talks about don't giving up. He talks about the mess of the writing, the fumbling in the dark, forgiving ourselves for making mistakes. It's not always clear at the time, but by trying and failing, we're growing as writers. He talks about having faith in your writing and in yourself, that you're getting better. Writing is like everything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And that doesn't mean it gets easier. I think any author will say it doesn't get easier each time around, and in many ways it gets harder, but you start to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. You start to figure out your own systems. So that part of it gets better. The dream is improbable and impractical, but the world holds a lot of great surprises, and success is often closer than we know. Everyone has more in them than they realize. He says your voice is important and your story matters. And that phrase, your story matters, comes up over and over again in so many of his speeches and in the book he writes or wrote, and a lot of what he says. It's that overarching message that your story matters. And then he said there is somebody out there who has been waiting their entire life to read the book you are writing. Let's show them something amazing. I kid you guys not. I wrote in parentheses that I'm in near tears. And I remember this vividly. I remember sitting at this conference and crying. I could cry right now. It's just, he's so inspiring. He really is. He's so inspiring. So take these words of wisdom and like make them your own and embrace them and hunker down. I feel like I was watching a Rachel Hollis motivational speech for her last 90 days last night, and I feel like I am like channeling my inner Rachel Hollis right now too. But like, guys, we can do this. We can all do this. NaNoWriMo is by far one of the best things I have ever done. I'm super excited about it. I will link all the stuff down below. And I hope that somebody out there is listening to this or is excited about this. If you guys are gonna do it, let me know. We can find each other on the site. I haven't signed up for this year and like announced my novel yet, but I will be doing that. I'm also going to be doing my donation. So like all this stuff just started rolling out. I will list down below like the website, the podcast that Grant has. And also I want to say it was Coursera where he did a pep talk last year also, and it might still be on there for free. Coursera has a couple of things that you can access for free, but I will link like all of that good stuff down below also so you guys can see it. And hopefully I will see you at NaNoWriMo, but you know what I mean, see ya. But I will keep you guys posted on how it's going. Like I said, I'm gonna do some sort of vloggy documentation of it because I also think it'll be fun for me and it's gonna hold me accountable, which I need accountability in my writing life. So there you have it. But thank you guys, as always, for watching. I know this wasn't reader-centric. This is definitely the other side of my coin, and I appreciate you guys listening to me talk about the writing life, and would love to hear if any of you guys are writers as well. So feel free to comment down below, or if you don't want to announce it to the world, shoot me an email at the Chapter and Converse email, and we can chit-chat there too, because I would love to just engage with all of you guys about writing stuff. So I'll see you guys really soon. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching. Bye, guys.